Alrighty guys, module number 5, reading and writing files, file handling, reading and writing files inside of Python. Welcome to module number 5, where we're going to deep dive into the critical world of file handling in Python. Reading and writing files is fundamental to interact with external data sources such as text files, CSV files, or databases. You'll learn how to read data from files in your program and write data from programs into files. Also allows you to save and retrieve information. This powerful skill will expand your ability to work with real data and get your mind open to Python and its endless possibilities within the programming world. But let's learn the fundamentals for today so you guys can hone down on these skills and understand how data flows in the real world and how you can utilize this to manipulate and transform data inside your Python notebook and then output it with a specific type of file that you'd like to output it as. So let's get into the lecture for today. As always, we're going to be jumping into our PowerPoint for today, and today we are going to be talking about reading and writing files. File handling. All right, on the agenda today, file handling, text files, JSON, and CSVs, and it'll be about 15 to 20 minute video for today. I wanted to include a meme here, file handling in Python. Use open, use close, use with open. You guys will understand this later on in the video, so let's get started. So hands-on as always, I'm going to be using Windows in this case. We'll be working on our Jupyter notebooks. If you have any questions during the hands-on tutorial, please email me, Matthew, NGUYE2023@fau.edu. No N at the end of my name. And also, we're going to be introducing you guys to the Jupyter lab as well. So we'll get into that today, and let's get into it. All right, guys, so file handling and overview. File handling refers basically to the set of procedures to use when working with files. We're going to be able to create, read, write, rename, delete, and close different files that we'll work with. Today, we're going to be working with text files, CSV files, and JSON files. Later on in your Python journey, you might be able to work with different types of files, but these are the ones we're going to be focused on for today. It is crucial that in any real-world application, we use some type of data transfer and data storage via these type of file handling metrics. I wanted to show you a flow to show you the different types of things you can do to specific files. So I wanted to show you this flow chart. Make sure you note this down and take it in as it is. So let's get into the basics of text files. So in Python, we use basic built-in functions to open a file. We'll use the open function to open a file, open method. The syntax is going to be open, the file name, and then the mode. These are the specific modes that we're going to have. It's the quotation R to read, quotation W to write, quotation A to append, and quotation R plus to read and write. Remember, when you open a file, you always must close the file as well. Use a close function when you're done so you free up some of your resources. All right, so these are the different methods that we're going to be going over. The read file that reads the entire file, read line that reads a single line from the specified file, read lines, which returns a list where each element is a different line on the file. So if you imagine a file that is a text file, it has different lines. Each line will be returned in this read lines function. So writing text files, let's go over that. Write function is going to write a string to a text file so you can actually write an output to your text file. Write lines is going to write a list of strings to your text file, so you'll be able to write a bunch of different strings to your text file if you would like to. Now let's jump into CSV and JSON files, guys. These are two different file types that we're going to be working with today. A CSV means comma separated values. Think of it as an Excel think of it as columns and rows. It's a table. So in the CSV file, they're going to be comma separated values. So just think about that. It's a very common data transferring metric file that we can utilize in in today's world. So just know that's what CSV means. Like I said, each line of the file is a data record, and each data record consists of one or more fields separated by commas. All right, guys, next is going to be the JSON file, JavaScript object notation. That's another way that you can transfer files in today's day and age. It's very used in the web and pretty much standardized when working as an analyst when you're getting some data from a web source. Think of it as a bunch of dictionaries. So think of it as a list of dictionaries. So each specific element of that list is going to be a dictionary, and inside those dictionaries, I can't tell you all the types of data that's going to be in there. You're just going to have to find out for yourself. It's often used, again, on the web, so think of it as that. So let's get into the different modules for the CSV files we're going to be going over. And this will make a lot more sense when we jump into the code. But Python CSV module provides functionality to both read and write to CSVs. Via the CSV module we're going to have to import, or CSV library we're going to have to import, comes from the Python standard libraries, which will be next module's video. But just remember, we're just going to have import and then CSV so we can use these functionalities. You can open a file with the built-in open function, and you can work with it in its iterable rows by reading the file via the reader method. You can use the reader object to read the entire CSV file, and you can use the writer object to write to the CSV file. Next, guys, let's go into JSON files. JSON files are going to have provided functionality within Python to read and write those files. You can work with JSON as a string and transform it into Python's data types like lists, dictionaries, integers, numbers, integers, floats, etc. All of those types of things as we learn through this entire bootcamp. You can use the JSON load method to load the data from the JSON file, and then JSON dump to write the specific data that you want to write back to that JSON file. All right, guys, let's jump into the Jupyter Notebook and let's knock out this Module 5 video so you guys can understand how to read and write files within Python, and let's get into it. Alrighty, guys, now we are back in the Jupyter Notebook, but before that, I wanted to bring you guys to Anaconda Navigator to show you Jupyter Lab. So let's launch Jupyter Lab so you guys can see what it is. Jupyter Lab basically is another way for you to interface some of your Jupyter notebooks inside of Python's Anaconda Navigator. And I find it a lot easier to navigate when trying to manipulate files and move different files around. So in here you can see I have my Jupyter Notebook files, and I have my workbooks that I'm doing presentations for you guys in. And here I can utilize my different files, and I can even open them up so I can see what I'm dealing with. In this case, I have these 3 files that we're going to be manipulating, so I can see what each file is and kind of visualize it here. I can also look at my Jupyter Notebook and make some edits to it as well. I just wanted to give you guys this access to utilize this tool built within Anaconda Navigator. Let's jump back over to our Jupyter Notebook now, and let's go over some file reading and writing. So the first little code block here, we have reading a file. So we're going to start with the with keyword, like I said before, just so we know that we can open and close the files. So we're going to say with open, and then we're going to reference our file. And I'm actually going to open back up Jupyter Lab so you guys can see this really quickly. So open this back up so you can actually visualize the files as they are here. So let that load up. So you guys can see I'm referencing that test.txt file. I'm referencing that test.txt file here in the code, and this is my test.txt file. So when I run this, I'm going to write test.txt in a string as one of the function arguments. Remember, we learned functions, and it's going to be that quotation marks R to read it as a file. And then, of course, our semicolon, and we're going to just print whatever we read from the file. In this case, hello, welcome to Python file handling lesson. This is a sample text file. Alrighty, so that is that for reading the file. Next, let's go to writing to the file. So I'm going to actually be able to manipulate this file, you'll see here. So let's click run. So as I write to this file, what we can see here is now I have changed the file content to the file here as I clicked run. So you can check the file by just checking the file here. So we just rewrote this file and we added this new content. So let's say I want to actually append this file in this case. So what I can do is I can click out of here, and let's actually make a new cell. So click B. Let's run this file. So we know that we just updated this file. So again, it's going to be the with keyword open. It's going to be test.txt. We'll use the A here for append as F. And let's just do F dot write. And let's do this is newer content. And let's do a slash N for a new line. All right, let's run this block of code. So let's click out of the file here and click back into it. Let's close this tab. So as you guys can see, we wrote to this file, we said this is new work content. So that is awesome. Alrighty, so let's close this tab out. And you guys can see here, the file is being manipulated as we're writing the code. I just want to make sure you guys can see it. So the next set of block of code is we're going to read the file in read mode. So we're going to read all the lines of the file. So let's click run, and we're going to print each line, in this case, of each file. So let's click run. So it's actually reading the file, and it's showing all the lines of the content in this file. So in this case, we are for looping over each line in the lines of the file, and we are removing any white space, and we are creating this content here. So let's just manually manipulate this text. Let's add hello here. Let's rerun this file so you guys can see this. Let's close this tab. Save this. So let's run this again. So as you guys can see, we are writing, getting this updated new text, and we are writing it to this notebook. All right, guys, so we're going to be doing the same thing with the CSV here. So as you guys can see, we have our CSV here with the different ages and names and occupations. So what we want to do is we want to use that import keyword that I was talking about in the PowerPoint. We'll be learning about importing modules and libraries and packages inside of Python, but we want to use that import module to import this CSV library that's native to Python. So let's just run this. It's going to be the same thing with and then open, and we're going to use our test.csv. We'll use R for read, and then we're going to have a for loop here that says for row in reader. So we're saying for row in each one of the CSV files, we're going to print the rows. So let's run this. We get this weird character, and now the reason why is because we have this encoding UTF. It's just a standard CSV file that we work with. So we can just add this into our arguments for our function here. That's part of the open function. It's part of the optional arguments. So let's just run this and see what happens. So now we get a clean CSV read. Already writing to CSV, guys. So let's say we have this variable called data, and we have a bunch of different lists in here. We have a list of lists. So the same thing here, we're just going to say with open, and we're going to open our CSV. In this case, let's change this to test CSV. It's a different CSV file. We'll use the W to write, and we're going to add a argument here as new line. So we're going to add a new line as a space, and then we're going to do as file as always. So basically, we're going to have a variable called writer, and we're going to have that equal to csv.writer, and then we're going to write to the file. And then we're going to do writer.write rows, and we're going to write that data variable. So very boilerplate, very simple. Just remember you have this reference as always. So let's run. So let's close this tab out. And then let's actually open this CSV back up. As you guys can see, we wrote to the file. So we replaced the CSV that we had with this new data. So we have this data, we have the name, age, and occupation, and we wrote those new values for that CSV file. Alrighty, guys, so let's take a look at the JSON here. So I'm just going to throw a comment up here to make sure you guys remember this is JSON. So the same way we import the CSV library, we're going to import the JSON library. Same kind of code here with open, and then we're going to reference our JSON file. So in this case, our JSON file is actually kind of look like a list of dictionaries, because that's basically what it is. Basically, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Not basically, it does stand for JavaScript Object Notation. It's a way that data is transferred across the web. It's pretty standardized, so you might see a lot of your data that comes in if you start to work as an analyst in JSON format. So let's just load this file, and we're going to use the R keyword here in the arguments as a string. And we're going to utilize this data variable, and we're going to say JSON.load. We're going to use the load as the argument for this load function that comes with the import JSON module or library, and we're going to print the data. So let's click run. So now we're able to read that JSON file within our notebook and manipulate that data as we feel. So the same way here, we want to write to our CSVs and our text files. We're going to do the same. So let's say we want to write this data into our JSON. So what we can do is we can do the with open. We're going to open that JSON file. And I decided to change these names before, so I'm just going to keep it as this data.json file. Let's close this tab so we can check it. So we have this data here. We have this new data that we want to write in. So same here, with and then open the data.json file. We'll use the W as the write, and then we're going to say as file. We can do json.dump instead, and we're going to dump the data into the file. So let's click run. Let's check this JSON file, and now we have our new data in there with Eve and Max. So that's pretty much it for reading and writing files inside of Python, guys. Very simple, very easy, but very effective. So you want to make sure you kind of memorize some of this boilerplate code and utilize the different functions that we went over today: read, write, append, and all the other related functions that you can use to reading and writing files. Utilize this code as a template to use the different files you might have on your computer, so you can analyze data, do some calculations, do some changes, and then spit it back out. And then always keep learning and growing with this, guys. There's endless possibilities when utilizing reading and writing data fundamentals. So continue to keep learning. And I appreciate you guys for watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next module. It'll be our last module, intermediate style Python, where we're getting into Python libraries like pandas and NumPy, and then potentially a final extra module that I want to do on object-oriented programming. So thank you guys for listening to this video and watching this lecture series. Hope you guys have a great day. Take care and stay safe.